At what point did you start taking your craft and start publishing it to online platforms? Was there something that you were using before Instagram, YouTube?
Yeah, I feel like it's definitely been a slow crawl and into a sprint almost now at this point. Like I said, I went from not having any social media presence at all, like watching like a post where somebody took a picture of me at a convention blow up a little bit on, I think, Tumblr probably, and just being like afraid, like, oh gosh, I'm scared. That's too many people interacting with a photo of me, and just being overwhelmed by that. To My friends actually made me my first social media account because I was, again, so reluctant, and they're like, Jessica, you need to stop lurking on all of our posts and being a weird internet creepo.
Those are
And
some good friends you have.
yeah, they're a good bunch. And the I think 1966 Batman was on in the background on the VCR, and there's like a weird line in that movie that's like, oh, the most majestic and noble porpoise. It's like the most niche uh like name reference ever. I have the sound clip handy, but
Gosh, Batman. Nobility of the almost human corpse.
yeah, that's where that was from. And uh kind of going from Tumblr to Instagram, and now to YouTube and TikTok as the newer platforms that I'm on, is that's been the transition for me. Just like, okay, I've got a lot of pictures that I never posted from all of these years of cosplay. I guess I have a social media account now. And then going from being a regular to it with it to kind of obsessing over the strategy, like that whole being an entirely new like aspect of the hobby, just like the analysis of it, and now being more software savvy, since I transitioned from science to coding over the last year, and understanding how like algorithms actually work, it not being so mysterious anymore. It's just like so fascinating to me, and is just an entirely different direction.
It's strange how calculated and scientific to an extent creative has to be now. Even extending past cosplay, you cannot. You're doing yourself and your art a disservice if you go online and you aren't following trends and strategies that will help you grow on a platform. And each platform is different, and each platform has changing algorithms, and it's like it's very hard to be one step ahead. You'll never be one step ahead. You might be three steps behind, but you can't be completely left out. You need to shine a light upon what's working when it comes to social media, especially when it comes to being a creative. When you are your own team, you have to dedicate some time to the marketing aspect of it. And you don't have to go all in. Like, even for me, it's difficult sometimes to do what I do 9 to 5 and then come in my evenings and weekends and then continue to do that. So I feel there are aspects of growing and growth that I don't necessarily do with my social media, but at the same time I'm very well aware how it will help me, and that if at some point you want to make that leap, you have to go head first into it and you really have to focus. And you, especially over the last, I'd say, year, that everyone is going on podcasts and they're being very open about the creative process and how they're looking to assimilate back into this new changing world. You have young artists who are very well aware of what it takes to be successful on social media and have that become something tangible. So you have to put in that work, and you have to be aware of, like, when do I transition to a new platform? How does this platform function? How can I get content to work on here and then over there? Do I need to adjust it a little bit? Are there certain times I have to adhere to? It's so much, but it is fascinating.
Yeah, and it's like one of those complicated things where, like, it's like a do I don't I want to do this professionally eventually. Like, I always said no, but it's like if it did happen, it would be great, but I'm not putting money on it. I definitely have my 9 to 5, and like it's always been so terrifying to me to pursue art, and I've always like really admired people who go for it, because I think it's one of the scariest things in the world to own your own business. And like there's so much to keep track of these days, social media included, and I think it's perfectly fine to just do this as a hobby and just for fun, but I feel like for a lot of us it does almost feel like a job sometimes, the way we dedicate ourselves to it. And it's a fine line, but I feel like a lot of us are treading it these days. And sometimes it's nice to take a break and just remember that it is just a hobby at the end of the day for most of us. But if you do, like you said, want to make that transition, there's a lot to consider, like financially, and like people who do this professionally, a lot of them do have teams, like dedicated strategists for social media and like video production and editors and like all of these things that you might even think that it's a one person show, but and it is sometimes, and that's also really impressive and a little scary and a lot of work. I think it's really easy to think that it's easy, but gosh, anybody who's ever edited a video has struggled. And
yeah, for real. Nightmares.
Yeah, I future Kiro in the future, like, hello, I hope you're okay. I hope there's not too much to cut out.
We'll see. He wasn't okay. And I can't help but feel that it's all right that things are like that now.
Mm-hmm.
Let's take a Spider-Man quote. With great power comes great responsibility. When you have so much access to everything that everyone has nowadays. I have an iPhone and an iPad that even 10 years ago, I didn't have this sort of power literally sitting in front of me or in my pocket. Now, I have no excuse to not be able to look up anything at any point in time. I have no excuse to make sure that my files are put together or that I'm prepared to get this or utilize that. But that's the cost of having so much power available to you, is that sometimes you need to act on it. And if you are a creative, you need to know that this is the world that we're going in. And it's a little unfortunate because I do feel that there are certain aspects of the medium, not just within cosplay, but within comic book culture, within anime, that it gets lost in the transition of modernizing it and bringing it to the mainstream. But also, if everyone can have access to these great things like expressionism through cosplay, or having stories told in a different way like anime is, then why not make it a little bit more difficult for the content creators to have to navigate, because now everyone can enjoy it, and I'm okay with that trade-off.
Yeah, it's again definitely a transition, and like interesting to see, and there's going to be good and bad with every change, but it's like I'm glad to be on this ride again. Just the concept of not having a phone like 10 years ago. I think I had a phone 10 years ago. I had to like call my mom to pick me up from the conventions. But yeah, it's definitely changed a lot. And I'm excited to see how it keeps moving forward. Something that, like, just mentioning comics that stuck in my head was even like Webtoon now. I don't read too many things on there, but just like how the comic style has changed to incorporate scrolling as like part of the story, and just like seeing panels transition vertically and smoothly together is just like it's like maybe a smaller change, but just really cool.